Hello, everyone. This is Shawn Horrell. You are listening to Never Heard of It podcast, and I am joined today, as always, by Craig T. Nelson, also known as
Craig Moorhead.
Which do you prefer?
I try to keep things on the DL a little bit. So I like to go by Craig Moorhead because no one bothers me. If I'm Craig T. Nelson, you can imagine the constant pictures being taken.
It's an interesting choice for a pseudonym, though, because you feel like you would just drop the Craig altogether.
Yeah. Well, I learned something a long time ago, is that if I change my first name, I don't realize when someone's trying to talk to me. That's why I could never be a spy.
Well, that's good to know. Also good to know is that today we're doing a mini episode, and along with talking about pseudonyms, we're going to talk about some of the news that maybe has fallen through your cracks, or not in this case. We got some big titles to talk about today. Mm-hmm. Why don't you come visit us at neverheardpodcast.com. You can find everything you need to know there, email address, all our social linky dinkies. We're on Twitter at neverpodcast.
I liked that. I like that very much.
Linky dinkies?
Yeah. I'm going to use that in daily conversation.
Only in business emails you should use that.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a linky dinky, Bob. Craig, how are you?
Man, Shawn, you know what? I'm doing all right. It's a good spring. Winter was very mild to warm. Summerish, you might say.
Yeah.
And, ocean levels are on the rise. Things are looking good. What about you, buddy?
I'm just still happy that we talked about a Medea movie, and I'm waiting with bated breath to find out if there is an upcoming one where Medea gets pregnant. I really don't think that's possible, but God, I would love that. And also got to dive into those old ones. If you haven't listened to that episode, go do so. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, please.
Speaking of a lot of fun, I think the very first place that we should start today is in the gutter.
You
know what I'm talking about?
That's a fantastic segue. Can we just take a second and just say you've nailed like 3 segues in a row right now?
This will never happen again.
You're on fire.
Double
I can
checking
never think of a segue. Okay.
Yeah, I did press record, so that's good.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I wasn't. Yeah, we would talk about this eventually, but then they dropped the trailer for this new It remake today.
Yep.
And boy, it seems like it's blown the barn doors off the internet. And granted, I know by the time people listen to this, it'll be a couple weeks old. That said, it's still worth talking about now that people have had time to sit with it a little bit. Craig, what I know about you is that you are a diehard classic fan of at least the novel, correct?
Yes.
And probably the TV adaptation?
For certain reasons, yes.
Okay. When is the last time you saw that TV adaptation?
Man, I haven't seen the full thing in a long time, but I have watched clips from it very recently. Not just today, but I mean like generally sort of recently with like for some reason last year I went through a long thing of like and I can't remember what set it off. Maybe folks who are listening go down similar rabbit holes, but like for some reason one particular scene was brought up, so I went and looked for it on YouTube, found it, watched it, and that reminded me of another scene from it. And I was like, oh yeah, what was that? And then I would watch that, and then I just went through a whole string of stuff. So I haven't watched that in a long time, but it is very campy. I remember watching it as a young person. So I read the book probably the year after it came out. So I was probably 12 or 13 when I read it. And I kind of felt like I was one of the kids in the book. Which kind of is what gave me a big connection to it. And then when the movie came out, it wasn't too much longer, not too much later, 1990 maybe? I guess I could use a computer and look that up right now.
No such things.
I know. It's too bad no one has invented something like
but
1990.
Let me check my Video Hound guide.
Hold on, let me go to my bookshelf.
That was 90, yeah.
So wow, 90, and I watched it, and I remember feeling like, yeah, this is campy.
Okay.
But I mean, Tim Curry was pretty hard to beat as Pennywise. And I mean, more than that, it was, I don't know, it's a 4-hour movie based on a book I love, so no one else is going to do that for me.
Very true.
What about you? What's your relationship?
I think I read the book after seeing the TV thing. I think it was a little later to the book, maybe in the 14, 15-year-old range.
Yeah.
Haven't revisited either, but have fond memories of both, and just didn't expect a ton,
right,
from a remake in 2017. It feels like there's no shortage of remakes in the horror genre whatsoever, and they kind of come and go without really getting on my personal radar.
True.
And so I've seen a couple stills. Yeah, the clown looks a lot creepier, I think, on the whole.
Sure.
But this trailer, I think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, whether the movie is as good as this, I think the odds are probably good based on what we're seeing. But Craig, I liked it. What about you?
I was very excited watching it the first time. As the day has gone on,
I sense some regret. What's going on here?
I've cooled on it a little bit, and
okay.
And I'm not trying to. I'm still very excited to see what they're going to do with this.
Okay.
It certainly looks like everyone's at a very pro level with what they're doing. There's no camp involved. Generally, things look pretty good. Some creepy moments. Cast looks like it could be good. A few things that kind of set me off a little bit is that it feels like it's cut the same way that like Insidious is cut, or The Conjuring is cut, or a lot of those kind of things. So a little bit of me just feels like I wish they would have gone for something a little more creative that really signals like this is the real version of it.
Well,
and I don't know what that exactly would have been. I love the fact they started it the way they did, with Georgie running after the hat in the rain. Like, that's great. That's something everyone remembers who read the book.
Yeah. And that scene is in the original. I mean, in the TV adaptation as well. It was slightly different take on at least what it appears the interaction will be between the kid and the clown in the Tim Curry one, and it somewhat dilutes the fear, I guess, there when you compare them side by side, at least in that Tim Curry version.
It does.
But it has a very modern look to it. I think what you're talking about, like with the cutting, I would agree with that, even though I haven't seen those movies that you named. But it feels very modern in that regard, and yet they're doing it as a period piece, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Certainly looks like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of bicycles and like kids with a slide
60s.
Projector, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, it's like, well, if you're going to do it as a period piece, like, I'm kind of with you. Like, it would be interesting to see just like a straight homage to the 80s or something, the way.
Sure.
I have Stranger Things, again, like we've talked about, that is maybe leans a little more X-Files than it does, really 80s kind of genre stuff. But I don't know. Like, as far as like getting people in the seats, I think that trailer's going to work.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Even they said that it's a teaser. So I have high hopes for whatever the trailer might be. I guess I shouldn't even say I have high. Why would I have high hopes for a trailer? No one should have high hopes for a trailer.
Do you? Yeah.
No.
Oh, no.
But I guess my biggest thing for this teaser that I really wanted to see and I don't see at all is I don't see any of Pennywise's personality. Like right now, Pennywise is just a weird, scary monster.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is not Pennywise. Like, the scariest parts of Pennywise to me are like completely different from all the photos I've seen. Like, they all look so malevolent, and I'm an evil clown. It's like, but in the book, it starts like the whole reason it's kind of scary is like these kids are trying to figure out why this sort of normalish clown is kind of in these weird places, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. I'm hoping to see that. So yeah, I have very, very high hopes for the next trailer.
Well, when this drops, we'll maybe post that original version of the Georgie scene with the drain, because that is definitely online, and you get a real clear sense of exactly what you're talking about right there. At least from what we see in this new trailer, compared to Tim Curry is like eager to start a conversation with this kid, even though, he looks a little weird. Your parents probably should tell you not to talk to any clowns in any gutters. It's just as a general rule of thumb. Obviously, it doesn't end up that well for anybody who comes into contact with this guy, but you're right. It's a different approach.
Yeah.
Another trailer I want to just tip my hat to is one called Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This has been floating around Facebook a lot too, I noticed, so you probably have seen it by now. But if you haven't, don't let this one slip through your cracks. This is the new Martin McDonagh movie. He's the writer, director, playwright. He did In Bruges and in my opinion, criminally underseen Seven Psychopaths. That was a great movie from a couple years ago. And man, this one looks like a lot of fun. You got Woody Harrelson and Frances McDormand, probably, I think, would have to be in a very early contention for Oscar nomination, at least, just based on what we see. Sam Rockwell's in there. I always love to see Sam Rockwell, and he's worked with Martin McDonagh a couple times now. Peter Dinklage, who also was in Bruges, if I remember correctly, briefly, is in here. Lucas Hedges from Manchester by the Sea, the very young actor, is there too, and John Hawkes. So awesome cast. There's always awesome dialogue in Martin McDonagh's movies, and as you can tell from the trailer, which is a very, very well-earned red band trailer with nothing but cursing through and through. I think this one's going to be a lot of fun and a potentially very interesting crime drama. And they shot it in Western North Carolina, even though it takes place in Missouri. So if you're familiar with the Asheville-Silva, Western Carolina University area at all, you're probably going to see some stuff that looks familiar. So definitely has me excited. Yep.
That's very cool. Confession time. I have never seen a single one of this guy's movies.
You got to see those two. I think he has some writing credits on a couple other things that escape me right now. I think In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths are both outstanding and very different. And I don't know that he directed In Bruges, but he definitely did Seven Psychopaths. So see him. I've read at least one or two of his scripts, and they're also great too. Just they're really fun reads. He's a very you can see the playwriting background in his work, but I think it transitions very, very well. Nice.
I got to do it.
And there's your homework.
Thank you. Thank you.
Finally saw Moana. My daughter had watched it like the day before and was raving about it and still talking about it. And I was like, okay, let's sit down. She wanted to watch it again. I sat down and watched it with her. And have you seen that?
I've not seen it yet. No.
Craig, I mean, it's really, really good. It's in some ways we were talking today, like it's almost better than Frozen, which I think is also pretty good. I know, like, you're not a fan of the Trolls. I get that in Frozen, and I don't think there's quite anything that really compares to that. But credit to Disney. I think they did their homework, and they've got a princess in this thing who is. There's no romantic entanglements. There's no. I mean, she's a human being, and she's not tiny, and it's this great culture, and really, I'm telling you, you'll watch this, and those songs are gonna stick with you. I mean, in my sense, like that's a better musical than La La Land was, at least for the songs. That's interesting because it didn't really have a breakout hit quite like Frozen did, But yeah, I always wonder that whenever one of the new ones comes out, it's like, how's the song? Like, how long is my 4-year-old daughter gonna sing the song that's in it? And what's interesting is, like, my daughter this week actually at school, and like we've been listening to the soundtrack on Spotify. She came home one day talking about one of her friends was singing one of the songs from the movie, and I do wonder if it's going to be one of those things that becomes a bit more of a mainstream phenomenon after the home video release. Now, sure. I don't know. I feel like I knew that movie was coming out. And I know it did really well. I didn't know what the hell it was about, other than, it's The Rock is in it and there's this girl, Right. And so that may have put some people off to actually just getting around to seeing it. But, it's got your man, Mr. Hamilton. Lin-Manuel Miranda did a ton of the music and sings on it. And, you can tell. I mean, I highly recommend that might be a good family flick for you guys to watch over the weekend or something. But I think you'll enjoy it, and I know your kids will. So,
well, on that note, we just watched the B.F.G. So this was one Steven Spielberg movie made at Disney, and it came and went. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I remember seeing about it was we have like a Disney movie club deal, and so we get like a little packet of things in the mail every now and again. The month that they had that featured, you had this whole, one-page ad for it with blurbs and all that stuff. And it's when I realized, like, no one anywhere on this page is talking about Steven Spielberg.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, yeah, and I was just like, man, so this really did bad. And, like, they're not even going to try and sell it on the name of him. When this is the writer-director team of E.T., yeah, I don't know. That was startling to me, and I just felt like this must be so bad. Like, I feel really bad about that. But then I watch a trailer and think, maybe it's not that bad. Anyway, we rented it, and I see why it didn't do well. And I feel like we read the book a while back, and it's kind of I guess what you would describe as a Shaggy Dog type story. It's just like it just kind of goes on until it ends, and it's got all this interesting stuff in it, but it kind of doesn't like. It doesn't grab you. It's not E.T. at all.
It's disappointing to hear. I mean, I kind of suspected as much. Same with you, like just given the reaction to it when it came out and kind of went.
Yeah.
And given the people involved, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Do you think that title hurts it?
I guess. I guess that's the thing. Like I always wondered if was it Disney that was saying like, well, we have Spielberg. And we're Disney, so we're going to sell it on that, and we'll just call it the B.F.G. And people who've read it, they'll know. Of course. I do wonder. I mean, it's a really odd title. When was the last time someone brought up the B.F.G. to you as a reference for anything?
Did you see The Adventures of Tintin?
Yeah.
That's also like Spielberg DNA through and through, just visually. Mm-hmm. I still like, that one didn't grab me either, really. Like I
was the same way, and I was so sad because people kept talking about it like it was the next Indiana Jones or something, and it didn't do it for me.
I think this has been a very kid heavy episode, which is fine by me. You sent a link, and I was like, I think you said, "What the shit is this?" If I can quote you, and I was like, "Dude, I saw that yesterday and had the exact same reaction." And that is that I don't remember where, and I don't want to commit it to memory, but they're building a theater that essentially will have a playground inside the screening room.
Right.
For kids to play on during the movie.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to get into who's doing it either.
Doesn't matter, really, does it? It's all about the concept of it. Like, let's
the concept
digest that for a second.
Just makes me want to. I don't know. I don't want to shoot myself or anyone else, but I don't understand. Like, why? How would this improve your movie going experience? If you, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing: we both have kids. So if you were like, honey, let's go see this movie that our kids can watch, but they don't want to watch, and they're going to play on a thing. I don't know. Like, I don't.
Why not just go to a playground?
Yeah, we're not going to watch The Exorcist while our kids are playing on the playground. Like, and they're going to come to you every 5 minutes and ask for a snack. Like, what's the point of doing that?
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to hear anything anyway.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to hear. Like, that was the one thing I was wondering, and I stopped reading at a certain point because I was so enraged. But I did wonder, are you going to have like maybe you have like Bluetooth headphones on or something? Like they have to do something because the kids
can't
are
hear your kids,
and then some kid's going to shit his pants. That's going to happen. Like every other
poop or puke,
or somebody's definitely going to barf.
Yeah, I think it is a bad concept in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
even if the movies are for the kids,
right?
Yeah, they're not learning to sit still and be quiet for a little bit. For 2 hours, hour and a half. They don't have to be perfectly quiet, but those are good lessons to learn.
Yeah,
you know?
this is church. Go to a real church and yell. This is church in the theater.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And it feels misguided in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Shawn, maybe we're wrong, but
how we're not. How How are they?
Yeah,
the kids are gonna be playing. They're gonna be climbing and sliding down a thing. You can't turn the lights off. So how is that going to work? Anyway,
and like, you know, if you have a kid of a certain age, I don't care. Like, I still need to kind of keep an eye on my kid at the playground.
Yeah,
you know. And especially if it's anything like one of the pictures where they're building it into the wall, like it's like this thing that's going up the wall.
Yeah. It
doesn't seem like it's for the parents necessarily to go and watch the movie. No. And it's not for the kids because they're just going to play.
Yeah.
So it feels like the movie is really extraneous. It feels like, to me, it reminds me of any musician or comedian doing a set in a bar where like everybody's just talking, like they're just there to drink, and you're the entertainment in the back corner. So I look forward to hearing from everyone who takes their kids to this, how this is, and we will judge you when you let us know that.
Yes.
Craigers.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to watch in our next full episode. We mentioned we have Murder in Coweta County coming, and that's the Andy Griffith, Johnny Cash TV drama extravaganza that was really interesting to check out. That is on Amazon Prime.
True.
And then the following week, what are we going to do? Well, I guess that would be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You found a little movie that was not familiar to me, and why don't you tell us briefly what that one is?
Well, that would be Johnny Suede, the Tom DeSillo movie from 91. Is that right?
It doesn't matter. The entire decade of the 90s is what you want to call this movie. When you see it, you'll know exactly what we mean.
Yeah, it's 91. It's so 90s indie cinema, and I gotta be I don't know. It was a welcome return as far as I'm concerned to just like that feeling of a movie. I feel like this kind of movie is just not made, hasn't been made in decades. But yeah, so we'll be talking about Johnny Suede from 1991, Brad Pitt's, I believe that was his debut, because that came out before.
I think Thelma and Louise maybe beat it to the theaters, but if it did, not by much, or it might be backwards. That might be. I think he had shot it already, right?
Well, yeah, it had been shot, but no one saw Johnny Suede, so Thelma and Louise essentially beat it to the theater. Like that's
clearly, because I'd never even heard of it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But yeah, check that out. It's on Amazon Prime right now. It's not the best looking transfer, at least from my eyes, what I saw. You might be able to find a DVD that looks a little bit better, or it might be floating around elsewhere online. I don't know.
That's absolutely right.
But you should watch it. Come back, join the conversation. We'll be talking about that one in full, and it will be a rockabilly good time.
Yeah, if you have anything to say about that, again, find us on Facebook, talk to us on Twitter. We're around. We'll talk to you. We don't bite.
Craig, enjoyed it as always. We'll see you next time, guys.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.